Students, welcome to session 4 on dual nature of radiation and matter. Now today's content is about particle nature of light, which is the photon, and wave nature of matter. Now till the previous sessions you have studied about few concepts, namely electron emission, photoelectric effect, experimental study, and how Einstein could explain the photoelectric effect using Max Planck's quantum theory. And now in today's session we'll study about the particle nature of light, which is very simple. Now before starting the next session, we'll just summarize the contents of the previous session. Now in the previous session you studied how wave theory of light was unable to explain photoelectric effect, and how Einstein was able to explain this effect using his photoelectric equation, namely h nu is equal to W plus K maximum, where K maximum represents kinetic energy, h is the Planck's constant, nu is the frequency of radiation, and W is the work function. Using this equation, he was able to explain all the observations of the photoelectric effect experiment. And then you also studied about a graph between frequency and stopping potential, which came out to be a straight line, and if you calculate the slope remains same for different metals, which indicates that the slope is independent of the nature of the material. Now we start today's session. In today's session, as I told you, we'll study about particle nature of light, which means the photon nature of light, where in photoelectric effect you already studied that light interacts with matter. When it does so, in that interaction it behaves as if it is made up of packets of energy, which are called quanta, and each packet of energy is equal to h nu. In photoelectric effect, this is what you have already studied. When light of certain frequency is incident, then that photon will be interacting with the electrons on the metal surface. Now in this situation, photon behaves as if it is made up of packet of energy, which is equal to h nu. Einstein also arrived at an important result, that this light quantum is associated with some momentum, which is given by h nu by c. Now this nu by c, nu is again the frequency, c is the speed of light in vacuum. Now any particle which has energy and momentum is supposed to be exhibiting particle nature. So when Einstein arrived at this result, that photon is also associated with a definite value of energy and momentum, this became a strong evidence that photon is also associated with a particle. Now this particle is named as a photon, and later its particle nature was confirmed by few experiments which were done by Compton when he was studying scattering of X-rays from electrons. So this is photon picture of light. Now in this photon picture of light, you need to understand that when light interacts with matter, it behaves as a photon of energy h nu, and it is also associated with some energy and momentum, which is the strong evidence that it is associated with a particle, and this was later confirmed through experiments by A.H. Compton on scattering of X-rays from electrons. Now for the characteristic properties of photons. Now let us see the properties of a photon. Now this concept is important for your board exams. Now let us see one by one the properties of a photon. Now as you have already studied, in interaction of radiation with matter, it behaves as if it is made up of particles called photons. So the first property says that it behaves as a particle. Photon behaves as a particle. Next, each photon has an energy which is equal to h nu, where h is Planck's constant, nu is the frequency, and momentum p is equal to h nu by c, and c is the speed of light. So the second property says each photon has an energy equal to h nu, and it also has momentum which is equal to h nu by c. And the third property says all photons of light of particular frequency nu. When a light is incident on a certain surface, all the photons of that light of particular frequency they will have the same energy, because energy is given by E is equal to h nu. So the energy of a photon depends only on the frequency of the incident radiation. It is independent of the intensity of radiation. That is what it is given here. All photons of light of a particular frequency or a particular wavelength have the same energy which is equal to h nu. Nu can be again written by c by lambda, and momentum p is equal to h nu by c. Whatever be the intensity of radiation, it is independent of the intensity of radiation. Now when you increase the intensity, you are just increasing the number of photons, but the energy of each photon remains the same. Hence, the energy of a photon does not depend on the intensity, it depends only on the frequency. Now this is the most important point. Photons are electrically neutral and they are not deflected by electric and magnetic fields. Now this property is very important for 1 mark question. Photons are electrically neutral, which means they do not possess any kind of charge, positive or negative. Electrically they do not possess any charge, and uncharged particles are not deflected by electric fields or magnetic fields. When you keep a photon in the path of electric or magnetic field, it goes undeviated. So this point is important. Next point, when a photon interacts with a particle, namely an electron, like in photoelectric effect, when a photon collides with an electron, as we have already studied, this interaction is an elastic collision. So during an elastic collision, total energy and momentum will be conserved. So in a photon particle collision, such as a photon electron collision, the total energy and the total momentum are conserved. This point is again important. However, the number of photons may not be conserved in a collision. Now you have to understand, only the total momentum and energy are conserved, whereas the number of photons will not be conserved, may or may not be conserved. Sometimes the photons may get absorbed, or sometimes a new photon may be created. So all these points are very important points which you have to revise and remember for PU board exam. Now let me recall all these points once again. In interaction with radiation with matter, it behaves as if it is made up of photons which has energy h nu and momentum p, and then all photons of a particular frequency have the same energy because it is independent of intensity, and photons are electrically neutral and they do not get deflected by electric or magnetic fields, and in a photon electron collision the total energy and momentum are conserved, but the number of photons may or may not be conserved in a collision. Now for the next concept, de Broglie's hypothesis. Now in the first session in the introduction class, I had told you that the universe is made up of two basic physical entities, namely energy, that is radiation, and matter. Now according to de Broglie, light, which is form of an electromagnetic radiation, exhibits dual nature. This you have already learned. Radiation exhibits dual nature, namely in photoelectric effect it behaves as if it is a particle, whereas in few phenomenon like diffraction, polarization, etc., it behaves as if it is made up of waves. So radiation exhibits dual nature. So if you just go through the sentence, it behaves as a wave in phenomenon of interference, diffraction and polarization. On the other hand, it behaves as a particle in photoelectric effect and Compton effect. So, from these sentences you can infer that radiation exhibits dual nature depending on the situations, depending on the circumstances. Sometimes it exhibits particle nature and sometimes it exhibits wave nature, and these natures are complementary, which means it can exhibit only one particular nature at a time. Both the natures cannot be expected from the radiation. So he says, de Broglie says, if radiation has dual nature, then material particles like electrons, protons, etc. also should exhibit dual nature. Now material particles are those particles which have energy, momentum, which has mass, which occupy space. All these are considered to be material particles. So if radiation can exhibit dual nature, material particles like electrons, protons also should exhibit dual nature. And he proposes this hypothesis based on two facts. Those two facts are, he says, nature loves symmetry, and if nature is made up of only two basic entities like energy and matter, if radiation has dual nature, matter also should have dual nature. This is called de Broglie's hypothesis. Now this hypothesis is again important for 2 marks. You need to understand, according to this hypothesis, he says nature loves symmetry and it is made up of only two basic physical entities called energy and matter, and if radiation exhibits dual nature, matter also should exhibit dual nature, and this is called de Broglie's hypothesis. So based on his hypothesis, he arrived at one important relation called de Broglie's relation. Now before learning de Broglie equation, you need to understand about matter waves, which is again important. Now let us see the definition of matter waves. Matter waves are those waves which are associated with moving material particles. Now you need to understand material particles like electron, proton, etc., etc. When they are in motion, the wave which is associated with those electrons when they are in motion are called matter waves, and these are first discovered by de Broglie, hence they are also called de Broglie waves. This definition is important. So the waves associated with moving material particles are called matter waves or de Broglie waves. Now let us see how we can arrive at de Broglie's equation. Now the derivation is very simple, and you can expect this for 3 marks or 2 marks. Now let us see the derivation of this wave equation. Now the two basic concepts which are utilized here are Max Planck's quantum equation, which is E is equal to h nu, and one more equation, Einstein's equation, which is E is equal to mc square. Using these two equations you can arrive at the expression for de Broglie's wave. Now according to de Broglie, you know that every moving particle has a wave associated. So when you have a wave, some wavelength will be associated with the matter wave, which is given by lambda is equal to h by p, where h is Planck's constant and p is the momentum of the particle. Now let us see how we can derive this equation. Now according to Einstein's relation of mass energy equivalence, E is equal to mc square. Now you have to understand, E is the energy absorbed or emitted, m is the mass, and c is the speed of light in vacuum. Similarly, according to quantum theory, E is equal to h nu, where again E is the energy absorbed or emitted, h is Planck's constant, nu is the frequency. Now as both the equations represent the same quantity E, you can equate these two. So when you equate these two, you get the equation h nu is equal to mc square. But again from wave equation you know that speed is equal to frequency into wavelength, where lambda is the wavelength, nu is the frequency, c is the speed of light. So using this equation you can write frequency is equal to c by lambda. Thus for a quantum of light we get, now h nu is equal to mc square. We can substitute the value of nu in this equation. So instead of nu we will substitute c by lambda. So h into c by lambda is equal to mc square. Now we can cancel c. Here on the left hand side you have 1c and here you have c square. So 1c gets cancelled. You will be left with h by lambda is equal to mc. Now the product of mass and velocity is the momentum of the particle, which is represented by p. Now let us go through once again the proof of this equation. Now for deriving this equation you need to use Einstein's mass energy equivalence, E is equal to mc square, and Max Planck's quantum theory, E is equal to h nu. Equate these two, you get this equation, and you have to use this relation c is equal to nu lambda. Substitute the value of nu in the above equation, you get hc by lambda is equal to mc square, or h by lambda is equal to m into c. This product of mass and velocity is nothing but the momentum, which is represented by p. So h by lambda is equal to m into c, or when you rewrite the equation for de Broglie's wavelength, you get lambda is equal to h by mc. So this equation is very important. This is what you have to actually arrive at. We can expect this question. Obtain an expression for de Broglie's wavelength, which you have to write till here. Lambda is equal to h by p, where lambda is the wavelength associated with the matter wave, h is Planck's constant, and p is the momentum. Now here we are talking about the momentum of a photon, because c is the speed of light in vacuum. P represents this relation represents the wavelength associated with a photon. Now he suggested that the above expression can be applied to even material particles which have mass and velocity v. So when you apply for material particles, instead of mc you have to rewrite it as m into v. So lambda is equal to h by mv. So you need to first go through the question properly. If it is for a material particle, then you have to write lambda is equal to h by mv, where v is the velocity of the material particle. Or if it is for a photon, then you have to write equation which is lambda is equal to h by mc, where c is the speed of light in vacuum. Now this equation is called de Broglie wave equation, where you can observe on the left hand side you have lambda, on the right hand side you have momentum p. Now you need to understand lambda wavelength corresponds to the wave nature and momentum corresponds to particle nature. Both these are related by a constant called Planck's constant. So you just go through the sentence. The above equation is called de Broglie wave equation, where wavelength representing wave nature and momentum representing particle nature are connected by a constant, namely Planck's constant h. So this relation is very important. You have to go through the derivation. Now this is again very important, and this is how de Broglie tried to explain that both wave nature and particle nature are interrelated. Sometimes it behaves as a wave and sometimes it behaves as a particle. Now let us see a few important facts or points related to the above equation. Now the first one, from the above equation you know that lambda is inversely proportional to the velocity. Now these are inversely proportional, so when the velocity of the particle is more, the corresponding wavelength will be less and vice versa. So if the particle moves faster, then the wavelength will be smaller and vice versa. This is the first point which relates velocity and wavelength. And the second point, now if the velocity of the particle is 0, which means if the particle is at rest, if it is not moving, then lambda is proportional to 1 by 0, which means it is infinity. Lambda will be infinity, which means the wavelength is infinite. Now you cannot visualize such a wave because the wavelength is very big. You cannot visualize the wavelength of that particular material particle. So when particle is at rest, the de Broglie wavelength will be infinite. Next, the third point. Now let us see how wavelength depends on the mass of the particle. Now wavelength is inversely proportional to the mass. Therefore, a heavier particle will have a smaller wavelength compared to a lighter particle. And then, as you know that lambda is equal to h by p, again momentum and wavelength are inversely related. So larger the momentum of the particle, shorter is the de Broglie wavelength. All these points are important for 1 mark. So you need to just understand the relation properly. And then the most important point is de Broglie wavelength is independent of the charge of the particle. It does not depend, because in this equation you have only mass and velocity. It is not depending upon the charge of the particle, whether it is positive or negative, or if it doesn't have any charge, even then the wavelength will be associated with that particle, and hence de Broglie wavelength, it is independent of the charge of the particle. All these points are important for 1 mark. So go through all these points repeatedly. Now let us see how you can rewrite de Broglie's equation in terms of kinetic energy K. Now you know that kinetic energy is given by the equation half mv square, where m is the mass of the particle, v is the velocity of the particle. Now let us see how you can rewrite the expression. Now let us consider an electron of mass m and the charge E, which is accelerated from rest through a potential V. Now the kinetic energy of the electron equals the work done, which is given by EV. So kinetic energy is equal to E into V, where E is the charge on the electron and V is the potential. Now for the expression, K is equal to half mv square, which is kinetic energy is half mv square. Now when you rewrite this in terms of momentum, you know that momentum is the product of mass and velocity. Multiply this numerator by m, so this becomes m square v square. So to keep the content same, we need to multiply and divide by m. So this becomes m square v square by m. M square v square is p square, so p square by 2 into m. So kinetic energy in terms of momentum can be rewritten as K is equal to p square by 2m. So let us write equation for p now. So p square would be 2m into k. So when you have to write for p will be equal to square root of 2mk. Now once you know the value of p, you can rewrite that value in de Broglie's equation. Therefore lambda is equal to h by p, which is h by, instead of p we'll substitute this value, root of 2mk. So this is the final expression. Now you have to learn for 1 mark, write an expression for de Broglie wavelength in terms of kinetic energy. Then you have to rewrite this. Lambda is equal to h by, instead of p you have to write square root of 2mk, where m is the mass of the particle, k is the kinetic energy. Now if you observe, wavelength is inversely proportional to square root of k. So as kinetic energy increases, the wavelength corresponding to that decreases. So this is one more form of the de Broglie's equation. Now for the next equation in terms of potential. Now similarly as we proceeded here, let us proceed for the next expression. Now as you have already learnt here, kinetic energy is equal to E into V in terms of potential. This is the work done, and that is equal to kinetic energy is equal to E into V. Now again you know that P is equal to square root of 2mk. Now instead of K, substitute E into V. So when you substitute, P is equal to square root of 2mev, and again for de Broglie's equation you have lambda is equal to h by P. Substitute the value of P, you get lambda is equal to square root of 2mev. Therefore lambda in terms of accelerating potential V is lambda is equal to h by square root of 2mev, where m is the mass of the particle, E is the charge of the particle, V is the potential of the particle. Now go through these equations once again. De Broglie's equation in terms of kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is half mv square and m square v square is momentum square. So write equation for P. P is equal to square root of 2 mk. So we get lambda is equal to h by square root of 2 mk. K is the kinetic energy. Similarly for potential, lambda is equal to h by square root of 2 mev. All these different forms of the equation are also important. Now when you substitute the numerical values of h, m, e for an electron, the wavelength which we get will be 1.227 divided by square root of v nanometer. N stands for nanometer, which is 10 power minus 9 meter. Now where v is the magnitude of the accelerating potential. Now they have conducted experiments, and when voltage was taken as 120, then if you substitute and calculate the value of lambda, the value of lambda comes out to be 0.112 nanometer. And now this result is very, very important because this value is of the same order as the spacing between the atomic planes in the crystal. Now in chemistry you might have studied, the crystals will have atomic planes. Now the spacing between the atomic planes is of the same order, which is equal to 0.112 nanometer. Now this suggests that matter waves associated with an electron could be verified by crystal diffraction experiments. Now de Broglie could actually discover that electron exhibits wave nature. He verified by crystal diffraction experiments similar to X-ray diffraction experiments. So matter waves associated with an electron could be verified by crystal diffraction experiments because they found out that the atomic spacing between the planes and the lambda value were of the same order, and therefore they tried to verify using crystal diffraction experiments. And for this, de Broglie was awarded, and he was the first person to discover the wave nature of electrons. Now for the question answer session. Now till now we have studied about de Broglie's hypothesis. De Broglie hypothesis says nature of symmetry, and it is made up of two entities, nature and matter. If nature exhibits dual nature, matter also exhibits dual nature. Hence he says matter also sometimes behaves as wave, and matter waves are those waves which are associated with material particles. Now let us just go through these 1 mark questions. Now few questions I need to explain. All the other questions are very simple. You can just note down the answers. 1 mark questions are very simple. You can just go through these. 2 more questions. Now the first one is mention the expression for de Broglie wavelength of matter waves and explain the terms. You have to just write lambda is equal to h by p and explain. And then second one, mention the expression for the wavelength of photon. So you have to write lambda is equal to h by mc. And then the third one, de Broglie wavelength in terms of kinetic energy. So lambda is equal to h by square root of 2 mk. And then here I will leave this question for you. I'll just explain the concept and I will leave this question to you. You have to calculate this. A proton and an alpha particle. Alpha particle is a helium nucleus. Mass of alpha particle is twice the mass of the proton, and charge of alpha particle charge of the alpha particle is twice, and mass of alpha particle is 4 times the mass of proton, and the potential difference remains the same. You need to compare de Broglie wavelengths. Now you write down the equations for lambda for a proton and lambda for alpha particle. V remains the same. You have to just compare their wavelengths. You try this, and then question calculations using this I will discuss in the next session when I solve numericals. Now let us see this question. Are matter waves electromagnetic in nature? Justify your answer. Now for this, Matter waves are not electromagnetic because they are not produced by accelerating charges. So justify your answer is they are not produced by accelerating charges as in the case of electromagnetic radiations. Next, so 21st one, why de Broglie wavelength associated with macroscopic particles cannot be detected. Now this is very interesting. Now when he says all material particles are associated with wave, then all the particles which we see in our daily life, they are all macroscopic particles which are very big in size. But we do not associate them with having wave nature, because when you just consider mass of objects which we see in our daily life, the corresponding wavelength will be very small, which cannot be measured. So small will be the wavelength corresponding to the macroscopic particles. So these particles cannot be actually detected having wave associated with them. That is why macroscopic particles, they cannot be detected having wave nature, because their wavelength will be very small. So you need to write the answer like this. Why de Broglie wavelength associated with macroscopic particles cannot be detected? Because the wavelength corresponding to them is very small. The wavelength cannot be determined. Therefore, it is only with respect to microscopic particles, not with macroscopic particles. And then the 22nd question, this is again a numerical based on the simple concept lambda is equal to h by mv. Now this, I think you can use the formula and solve, or otherwise we can just continue in numericals sessions. And for 3 more questions, you need to write state de Broglie's hypothesis of matter waves, and then what was the reason. You have to state the reason, and then you derive the expression lambda is equal to h by p, and then the 2 different forms of the expression, one in terms of potential and the other one in terms of kinetic energy of electrons. And there is one 5-mark question which is important, 5 characteristic properties of photon. All the 5 properties of photons are important. You just go through the session, revise. The content of the session is very important for your board exams, which are very simple and easy to understand. So go through all these concepts thoroughly. Thank you.